At first, it was a typical New York story. In the days before World War II, Anne Greenberg's family lived in the Bronx. Anne met Arthur Greenberg. There was a courtship, a wedding, and soon after, Arthur was shipped out to fight the Great War in Europe. Later that year, their first child was born, a son, Jerry. He was a beautiful and happy baby, adored by his mother, grandmother, and all his aunts. But a few months later, Jerry began to have seizures. After that, he was never the same. He was delayed in standing and sitting, walking and talking. With her husband away at war, Anne began her tireless search for help. She went to every doctor she thought would have an answer. She began writing letters to hospitals and community groups. She needed help for her son. She had no idea then that her efforts would be the beginning of one of the largest organizations in the country, AHRC New York City.
When he was about 2 years old, maybe even earlier than that, I thought at the time I looked to see what kind of future retarded children had, because I didn't know anybody else. Well, I found out they didn't have any. I went through the yellow pages, I went through the Board of Education pages, I checked everywhere. I even wrote a letter to Mrs. Roosevelt, and incidentally she answered me. She suggested I contact somebody in the Board of Education. I went to see them, and they said children are accepted in school when they are 7 years old and can take care of themselves. I go to the bathroom themselves, dress themselves, and things like that. I didn't know when he was 2 years old whether he could do these things. That was what made me think of doing something else. But what to do, I did not know. I decided I must do something. And that's what made me think of the ad. So I put the ad in the paper. People did see it. And they did call me up. So that little by little, my group got bigger and bigger. We made a big splash by what we were doing. And everybody started to hear about us. That's how we grew.
The world today is a different place for people with mental retardation and developmental disabilities. It's different for their families. The support and services offered by AHRC could only be dreamt about years ago. There is evaluation, therapies, and education for babies and young children. There is supported employment, competitive employment, and more structured environments for adults. There are camps, residences, medical clinics, counseling, recreation, and respite services. The list goes on and on.
We didn't expect anything like this. I know I didn't. Who would have thought it? Who would have even dreamed that there would be an AHRC like this? We had to make it happen.
It was families who changed the world for their children with developmental disabilities. Mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers. They comprise the force that has and will continue to do what needs to be done to make sure that people with disabilities continue to live productive lives. Won't you be part of the AHRC family? Please join us.